Happy Valentine's Day to those who celebrate St. Valentine. Today I'm going to be making some buttermilk peanut butter brownies, and I think you're going to love them. They're fudgy, they're peanut buttery, and they're just great to have around for snacks. And they're going to be really a good treat tonight for our Valentine dinner. So let's get started. I've got a medium saucepan, and we're going to put it on high. And I'm going to take 3 tablespoons of butter. There's a little bit left on the knife from cutting it. I'm going to put that in there. We're going to take, once the butter is melted down, which will happen pretty quickly, I'm going to add the other ingredients. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add a half a cup of sugar. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of buttermilk. It's already starting to kick up. At this point, we're going to turn our stove off because it's going to start to bubble. And you want to get this to a boil, but you don't want to burn it. So I'm going to turn it off. Some of that heat will stay in here until the butter completely melts. And to this, you're going to want to add 1.5 cups of chocolate chips. I'm going to be using the, these are Ghirardelli, and they're the thumbprint drops. So put in those. Thank you. Few more. And we're going to let it sit here. We're going to melt all that chocolate. Remember, the stove is off. Just going to keep stirring until all of your chocolate is melted. And it's starting to, the pan's going to start to cool down because we've turned the stove off. My grandmother always called it fire. So if she said turn the fire off, she meant turn the stove off. So if I ever say fire, that's kind of what she meant. It's just something you get used to saying. Okay, we're gonna let it sit here for a little. What you're seeing in here are the granules of the sugar. It's not quite melted yet or dissolved. And we're gonna move this to a cool side of the stove and let it cool down for like probably 5 minutes. Just making sure all of the chocolate is melted. And I'm using this as a milk chocolate. You could use dark chocolate if you wanted to. Just know that dark chocolate has a higher level of the cocoa bean. And when you're baking with it, you use a lot less. There goes that sugar. Now it's smooth. And the buttermilk is just going to add more butter and more cream to the brownies. You could use regular milk if that's all you had. This is the buttermilk recipe, so. I always keep a pint of buttermilk in my refrigerator because we're constantly making stuff that requires it. And if it ever goes bad, we have 2 pigs that love it. Okay, I'm going to let this cool down for a full 5 minutes. I'm going to set my timer. but not all the way completely down. And so we're going to add our next ingredients. We're going to add half a teaspoon of baking soda. Going to add 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. I'm using kosher. We're going to add a little bit of vanilla. Stir that in. Okay, I'm going to show you a little trick that I do for tempering eggs. This is not a proven tip, but it's one I use and it's never failed. So, our eggs here are never refrigerated. They're always room temperature because we have hens and we just collect eggs every day, and so they never have really time to hit the refrigerator. So you're going to use 2 eggs, I would say room temperature, and I'm going to take a splash of cold water in my eggs, just a splash now, not anything that you're going to want to measure. Then you're going to want to scramble them. Just mix them up in the cold water, because adding this to something hot may or may not cook it. You got to really stir fast when it hits. Okay. So you got to stir it really, really fast so that your eggs don't get cooked. Just like that. And this will really thin out your batter. Just because I'm a stickler for a dirty stove. I don't like dirty stoves. I clean up my mess. I'll do a better job in a little bit. Okay, we've added our salt, our baking soda, our vanilla, and now we're going to add the flour. And you need a 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour. And my suggestion when you're doing homemade brownies from scratch, use the freshest flour you have or can get. So if your flour's been in your pantry for months, I wouldn't use it for scratch brownies, because it's really not gonna do a proper job. I would make them when you first buy your flour at the store, or make your flour, however you do it. And I'm using organic flour, but you could use any AP flour. Okay. So the best way to do these peanut butter, I think, is to get the Reese's miniature cups. And usually they come in a bag and they're unpackaged. I would use a cup of the mini peanut butter cups from Reese's. I have the regular size cups, so I'm going to cut them. So I'll get those ready and then we'll throw them in here. And that's what you're going to put inside your batter. You're going to grease or use parchment paper on an 8x8 or a 9x9 pan. I'm going to use a glass one today, or a Pyrex one, but you could use anything that's in that size range. Even a 9x10 would probably be great. If you go too much bigger, your brownies are going to be really thin and they may overbake. So There's just a real science to scratch made good brownies. So my Reese's Pieces. Okay, so we're gonna be back. I'm gonna get the put them in here, or my pieces of Reese's cup in here. I'm gonna stir them all around. We're gonna put more peanut butter on this as well, so get that stirred in. And we're gonna go pour it into our pan. Now this pan's been sprayed. Just want to get all the chocolate we can. I'm going to use a natural low sodium Jif, and I'm going to use what I call a soup spoon and just a regular spoon to dollop it in here. Now remember, I already have the candy in there as well, so we're going to put a dollop around the batter. And I'm doing like a half a teaspoon. And if you have like a family of 6 or 4, you probably want to make 2 pans of this. You know, it's just my husband and I here, so. I'm just going to put it all around. All right. And then we're going to take a butter knife and we're going to swirl it all into the chocolate right before we put it into the oven. So I'm just going to take it, and your batter's going to move, so don't worry about it. But I'm just going to just do 8s all through the batter. I want to make sure that it's getting everywhere. And it will disappear on you, so don't worry about that. Alright, we're going to bake this for 30 minutes. Okay, our brownies are out of the oven and they're cooled almost completely down. And I think for the purposes of Valentine's Day, I'm just going to cut these into 4s. Let's see if I can get them out. Yum! Okay, there's our brownie. I'm going to take a little test. Now we're going to put caramelized cream and Cool Whip on top. So good. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a wonderful Valentine's Day, and we'll see you again on the next video. Find somebody to bless, everybody.